Oh, my goodness.
So I don't think our forum recorded.
Oh, I don't know, did our former record?
I didn't
I don't
even
think
look,
it
I hadn't
did.
even.
I think
checked
when
the
we
chat.
switched to the,
Oh,
Yeah,
when we went to the PowerPoint, well, remember we had so much trouble trying to get it going in the first place?
yeah, I thought it was running in the background. Oh, that kind of sucks.
it's bummer.
Yes, it does.
It's bummer.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll have to do it from memory
yes.
and,
So what you're saying is
but
there's no many.
it's gonna be really hard to capture the shouting match.
Was it
So,
shouting match?
Are we calling, you calling it?
I'm sorry, call this
6:04.
meeting to order at 6:04 or 6:03.
Already done.
I like what you do.
Thanks,
It's pretty cute.
I appreciate
It
that.
looks like a lot of work.
Considering
Is
you're
it a lot of
safe, no.
I don't have an option to do any of that stuff.
Oh,
There it
just
is.
like I was typing your name and saying, I've seen Russ in a while.
Russ Blair. How you doing, buddy?
So go ahead. We'll keep
So,
going
no,
on.
we can, you good to start?
Yes,
Okay, so we've got the minutes of the October 7th meeting. Any changes, comments? That was basically our setup for the forum.
correct. No changes?
Motion to accept? Please.
Accept.
Second. Look at us
All in
all.
favor?
Hey,
Anyone opposed?
we're voting on the minutes. You good, Dave? Opposed.
Then you can be the secretary.
Okay, so unfortunately, since the Zoom didn't record, we're gonna have to do a forum from memory. And
You all failed. I fire you.
Well, then you just can't not be there.
Right, that's right.
Okay, so.
What-
we're recording it.
Well, my take on it was that it would have been nice to have a larger turnout. There was a few new residents in town that wanted to be informed. But most of the rest of the group, there was people that are opposed. Unfortunately, there was more people there that from the beginning have opposed what we're doing and want the garage moved. So they monopolized the meeting.
So how many people?
but the nice thing is that the quiet part finally came out.
Mhm.
We want them out of here so that we can move the town offices up here and build a museum big enough to put a fire truck in or something.
Yeah.
And, the historic storage museum, annex, whatever. So that, in my mind, has expanded the scope of what the real goal is from a $5 million project to a 10 million. Building all those buildings and facilities is not gonna be cheap.
Bruce, were there more people there than the last forum?
That's it, so.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I feel like there were more, there were a few people that we know might be opposed, but there were only a few that spoke out, and thank you, by the way.
Did you speak out?
Yeah, I was opposed to everything.
I hear the seed.
I think there were people who didn't know a whole lot, who actually got a lot out of, watching the presentation and understanding what we were doing and why we were doing it. So I think that that was positive. But it was the same old from, the same old people who don't want it to happen. And, the thing I'm still trying to wrap my mind around is, one of the things that I said at the forum was that right now we have 3 guys with CDL licenses driving in and out of here who are very protective of both their licenses and understanding that there's children out about. But I'm trying to figure out how, if we put a whole bunch of other buildings up here, how that's not creating a safety issue where one doesn't exist right now.
Tenfold.
Yeah, you're gonna have people,
So they shouldn't use the narrative about the safety of the library.
the
They should
safety
just-
with the library
They should
is
stop talking.
null and void
Right.
if we're putting a whole bunch of buildings up here that you know.
Cause now it is gonna be a safety.
But that,
Now it is going to be a safety hazard.
but that quiet part wasn't revealed until the 10th. And some people knew it, you
Well,
kind of knew it,
it's,
but
yeah,
this is
I mean,
the first
it's
time
been-
I know that they said it outright.
Well, it's been there, meeting. Yeah. So if you know, went back through them.
So I mean, doesn't that then just make it that the conversation is for the town to decide, do we want to spend millions of dollars for a museum?
Oh, absolutely,
Right.
yeah,
But now we have the whole picture.
Yeah, you have a proposition, yeah.
yeah. Well,
A,
no, it's, yeah,
repurpose the area, and then the cost of building a new maintenance garage. Highway department. Right, developing a new site. So that's huge.
But when the reason we got creative was when that was reserved. I specifically asked the question, what are we gonna do up here?
well,
Well,
was one of
that's not our problem at this point.
In the end, Peter, what happened was that, I think the consensus was that we need to have a committee. If this is what we wanna do as a town, we need to have a committee that's gonna look at the whole big picture of, the municipal building, the fire department, the library, the highway, everything.
Who decided that?
Well,
That was
I
the
think,
criticism?
well, I kind of mentioned it at the end, it got a little testy, there was a few people that got a little testy, so I think I kind of.
You did a good job calming.
Calm the room down a little bit, say, hey, look, we're all neighbors and we're all friends here, and we don't have to always agree, but whatever we're gonna do, it's gonna be long-term down the road, whether we do something here or we do nothing. Whatever we do, it's gonna take a long time for this to all work and figure out the money and our needs, and that there needs to be a committee to actually really look into that. Cause you know, and I mentioned how there's some of us that think it's as simple as building a small addition off the back of the municipal building for paper storage.
Or
And building an addition up the library for the museum, and fix this up and call it a day, and we're good for another 50, 75 years.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm right, but I could be wrong, and that's what I told everybody, I said, well, I guess we need to have a committee then to see, but.
Yeah, it means you got A and B.
You could
and,
also
know.
start digitizing our paper and we wouldn't need any storage or very little storage.
Well, this is where the conversation went anyway, and in the end, I think it was. You know, I think what I got from it was that we're probably gonna do. Most likely, from what I heard from that forum, was that we're probably not gonna present anything next March. For up here.
Why is that your,
Well, I don't know, I just don't think, I think because because we don't know about our tax bills, and we don't know about what's gonna happen with our school, and I think, you know, I mean, we can put a proposal out, we can see what they do, but I don't know if I don't know, I guess I could be convinced that it's the right
Well, I
thing to
think-
do.
Well, do you wanna do option 4, which is what everybody.
Everybody wants
That would be
option four,
great,
yeah. Yeah.
right? Do you wanna do option 4 if the right answer is municipal offices, museum, whatever, here, if it really is a, town center complex.
Yeah, I personally don't think it is, but there's others that do, so I don't know.
So we don't know how many people were there, nobody counted?
Had to be at least 20.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah,
That's a good
Yes.
one.
yeah.
Yeah,
There are parts of it that reported, just not the whole thing.
There were 23 that responded to your survey, one piece of 20, 25 is probably the number for that form.
Yeah.
Was that what it wasn't reported in the paper, was it? The number?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I don't know. There was an article in the paper
Yeah, he
about it.
reported.
Yeah. I actually think he might have recorded some of it too.
Oh.
That reporter might have recorded.
I'll check that out.
David, his name is David. He was very nice.
Well, what do we do?
Don't know.
Can I just, we all have a surveys?
Yep.
I incorporated the one that Amy sent this afternoon into here, so you have the very last column is the total number, and I was actually surprised when you added it all up. It was more, I was thinking that most people were on the 1-2 range, but it ended up being the 3-4 range for thinking something needed to be done. So. That's right.
You mean, you thought more people were going to say, we don't need to do anything at all?
Right, because that's what they did. Like here and there they did, but at the end of it, when you add it all up, of the 54 people, because there's 54 people involved in the survey. It looks like the majority of it, or not the majority. 28% in the 3 and 4. Which makes it
That's interesting. One of the comments was, whatever cars are there are safety concerns. Cars are more dangerous than highway trucks.
And I will email this, not chance to print it out. I'm realizing that most people can't see that writing, so I apologize.
I can read it if I'm very careful.
But to me, in this survey, it does not seem like there's anything pressing where we need to be spending millions of dollars in the town.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a nice to have.
yeah,
it's not a
that was
need.
my impression too, but, you know, I think at the end of the day, it's up to the taxpayers to decide how much more they want it to cost to live here.
I'm gonna keep that, I would say it should be remaining for the next couple of years. Maybe, but I like the idea of putting something either in the budget or in an article. That says, all right, let's fix up what we have here, at least keep it going, but
Yeah.
don't bring big changes. Because Gail alluded to it, but she was talking about other stuff that's coming down the road. But the big stuff that's coming down the road is the 2 bridges.
Yeah.
And those are, I mean, when we're looking at all the funds, like, wow, they hog up all the money. And I think a lot of people, a lot of different groups are using like that, highway garage study. It's kind of like, what is that? Let's take that back in the general fund, that'll go.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing is if we were to do option 4, which let's throw in, instead of 400,000, let's say by the time inflation hits, it's gonna be 450,000. Let's just suppose that costs are gonna go up, not down. If we could get grants and needed matching funds, we could use 225,000 and then try and get a grant for 225,000, which leaves some of that money that's already been allocated to the relocation left over. So there's a possibility we could make the changes, improve this site, and then still have some money to put back in the general fund. If we could get it, a grant.
So, Peter Allen Pickman was really vocal about. He felt his interpretation of our warrant article in March was that we were tasked to look into all town properties in particular.
All options here.
All options, so
And that we didn't do that.
In terms of.
that we didn't do our job, it was a big
I
argument.
hope you read the.
We did several times, but he didn't see it that way, but
It's
Well,
it's a
we
feasibility.
shook hands at the end, but
It's a
it was.
feasibility study and the cost related to the feasibility of maintaining.
Well, no,
Maintaining
the
the word, something with the site, that the word used
was
options for the
All
highway garage
options.
Site, yeah.
Of the site.
And the site could be used for. all kinds of
Historic
stuff.
society, so, yeah,
But
anything
we
that
should have
was
been-
hidden because it's in historic history.
Well, and you
Anything
know,
else is
Russ
allowed.
spoke up and said this is, we had,
But in
the
the
task was
context of when it
obvious,
was
but-
written.
But Pickman
They
was
knew it.
here at the first couple of meetings and knew where the discussion was going. At any point in time, he could have said, we should be discussing this too.
Well, no, when we formed,
No, he was in the previous
new-
group.
yeah. the
No,
previous committee.
Pickman was at 3 meetings here.
right, but we'd already done the warrant article by then.
Right, I'm just saying, at
Yeah.
that point in time, he could have noted that
Yes.
we
Well,
should be
just-
discussing that.
It makes me
piece.
understand why language keeps getting manipulated to be changed to meet an agenda. Because I don't think anybody else had any impression other than that we were doing exactly what we said we were doing.
It does say for the purpose of developing all options pertaining to the current highway department.
But that's okay, I mean, we can address that in our
And
final
we could,
reports,
we
it's
could.
pretty simple to get.
Something over there.
I know, right?
We'll just say.
McDonald's or a Home Depot.
$1 million. And up to date is $450,000.
And I'm pretty sure we had a discussion at the second meeting where we actually said to Pickman, can you share with us the numbers you have so we can put it on a grid?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have any numbers, was the answer.
Right,
So that is a lame,
But Russ, getting to your
Everybody
point here,
hear that?
it's very clear in
Very good.
this Article 2. Evaluating all options pertaining to the current
right.
highway garage.
With a current highway garage site, that's
Yeah.
these 2 acres.
Right, so the
And that's,
current
and
site.
if you
So that
read
can't be That doesn't mean we're gonna look down there.
No, 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 no.
What I'm alluding to is we didn't look to like a museum or another library or another something else out
Or a
here.
municipal building, there were,
Municipal
we did look
storage
at
for the
all of the
school.
different things that could be done at this particular
Because he
site,
said,
right? Rather
instead
than,
of just the highway garage at its current location.
right,
'Cause
well, again,
that's-
it's a,
that's what highway
it's a,
preposterous.
yes, it's a
It's
moot point.
preposterous.
I don't think most of the other residents there, they didn't feel that way. They understood what our task was, so.
Well, all you do is look at the recording of the meeting. I mean, if we had a record, all the discussion was about the current location.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
Yeah.
That's been,
No,
all-
I just.
We weren't talking about it.
I mean,
That's disingenuous.
yeah. So that was the heated part, and you know, this was, a lot of it was the same old rhetoric that, you know, reasons why we should move, but we've
Trying to
already,
find reasons.
we've already,
Well, and I
we've already
think-
disproved most of that with all our
Well, and I
research.
think
and
there's some validity to, you know, coming up with, and it shouldn't be our committee, because we're the Highway Garage Study Group, and it shouldn't be the TLURC, because they're the Temple Land Use Research Committee. There needs to be a new committee, maybe these two are disbanded, that looks at all of the municipal buildings and comes up with, basically uses our process of establish, you know, how the buildings are used, what is necessary, what would be nice. And bring all that in and price it all out and bring all that information to the town and let them decide.
And what you do with the spaces you were in.
Exactly.
I mean, I've talked to other people, outside of those meetings in town that could go either way, let's just call it that way. But they did some homework and they still believe, a lot of them still believe that if they could have had Spadania land shovel ready, that they would have been grant money available. Even though we pretty much disproved that, but they still believe that in their mind. That it wouldn't have been millions of dollars, it would have been a lot less because we had to be shovel ready. Of course, we all know the reason why we didn't do that, because you don't have somebody build your house and not know if it's gonna be 1 million or 5 million, you usually have a contract and you know, so
Yeah.
who would do that? So, but there's still some people out there, good
Shovel
people,
ready.
that actually believe that is true.
Shovel
Because that's
ready
what
has
they
to
were
have all the plans.
200,000 at least to build the road, the bridge,
Yeah.
blue.
Well,
Dynamiting.
that money would all be gone. And then what if we didn't get grants?
Yeah.
You know, that money.
You're
would be
committed, now
gone.
you're committed.
Yeah, now you're
Yeah.
committed. So now we don't get grants and now.
Well, that's why we're here, that's why we
Yeah.
reformed, and that's why we had a
Exactly, yeah.
special town meeting, and now the great turnout to say no,
Yeah.
because this is crazy, this isn't how you.
We put this away $300,000 and leave an abandoned road and a star.
Oh, good.
The interesting thing is, all that talk about grant money after shovel ready, there was no evidence of who would provide the grant, where the grant's available, what's the mechanism. I mean, if you're really serious about that, all that information would have been provided.
That's right.
Nothing, again, it's just blah, 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 and expecting us to.
Trust us with
I
legit.
have a question about what we're thinking about, if we like different options, and it came up, and I said, well, why don't we build a cell tower, that's an option. So, and it was pointed out, it's not an option, because it's a
Sure,
historical.
right.
So is any of our stuff an option? Because all of the different, we're putting up a couple different buildings,
Yeah.
are any of those meet the historic criteria? I don't know, I didn't.
Danny, are you on?
I was on that, as chairman, town is exempt from their own ordinance. And there's so many exemptions, there's exemption for poverty, there's exemption for, any sort of infrastructure like solar panels and windmills. That the historical districts cannot regulate any of that, so that would probably radio tech, okay.
And, I was just being.
Right.
I'm trying to point out that,
There's
there's things,
things,
other things that could do.
yeah, there's big, and then we actually hold them to the fire because where we're sitting. They refuse to allow the historic district commission to have any say on this. Where we are right now,
Mhm.
that was the wall of the building right there, that was the back wall of the building,
That's right.
and
And this all.
yeah, and we wanted to weigh in and nope, because some case law, because of Manchester, a parking garage went up in a historic district, and Manchester won the case, so because of that case, towns cannot, don't have to follow their own zoning.
Interesting. Like, why couldn't you put an addition on this building for a historic museum? Why couldn't you go right up there?
Well,
Between the.
there's a
two-
septic there, but we can work around that, yeah. Well, the funny part is, so in my lifetime, 56 years in Temple, we've had an addition to the chapel. We had an addition to, this building. We had an addition to that library, and we've had a 2-bay 40 by 40 heated garage added on up here. All those things have happened in the last 50 years, most of it in the last
I
30.
think the church one did.
All of that's, every building in this
Church
district,
one, though,
except for the church.
When they.
The Parsonage, the good, Friendship Hall was added on.
Behind Goodyear.
Yeah, that was the first one, and then the library, and then this, and well, and in between, they did that, so we've had all these additions that have happened in Temple in the last 4 decades. And it looks fine, they were all done,
Your point is, it's a historic district.
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
And but this.
And what we're proposing is gonna be tasteful, it's gonna be an improvement.
it's gonna be better than what it is.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I wanted to mention was, speaking about, people on committees. So I'm old enough to remember when the fire department was down here where they put the well. And it was a 2-bay firehouse in the 80s. Yeah, right there.
Was it common?
On the
Two
triangle.
bay, yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
triangle,
up above was the selectman's office. You had to climb the stairs to go up to where the selectman met up at a, like a little tree house. And that part of that building, that whole building was moved. So there was a committee. And if you look back in the Temple reports, for 5 or 6 years, it was a big deal, kind of like what we're talking about with the highway.
70s,
It was the majority of the discussion in town, that people were divided. It was a big deal. And I've done a lot of research on it, and it all happened. I was, a teenager when this was all happening, but what happened was, they formed a committee. And guess who was on it to move the fire department in the municipal buildings down? Scale set. Alan Pickman. He was fairly new to town. He was one of the key members of that committee that moved it down there. And I'm not saying it wasn't a bad thing to move it, because it was really crowded. We would have never, it couldn't stay there. We have to move it somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's not a mile, by the way, but it's out of town, it's down the hill. But, so anyway, he was on the committee. And now they wanna move stuff back up here and congest all this. So, it's just interesting. So the people that are around and live long enough that can remember,
Yeah,
they're not gonna pull the wool over their eyes. They remember the history of what happened and
yeah,
how it happened and who was involved and what they talked about and everything. Like Shirley Holt, sold that triangle of land where the Little Red Schoolhouse was. And, that was supposed to be, for Temple forever, and it is, but, there was talk at the meetings, it's in the minutes of, it staying a cow pasture grazing forever.
yeah.
Now it's not that, it's in conservation and, so I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot of cool stuff in our town reports.
Yeah.
The history's right there for you to read.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I've gone back through and learned some interesting things. It's fun to go back and read.
so I guess I started that whole thing by saying the precedent's already been set in our town over the last however decades of additions on buildings. And so what we're proposing here, I don't,
And it would aesthetically fit in.
it's.
That's kind of why historic district didn't really hold them, we didn't raise a fuss, because we were like, okay, they were working with the state historic, they were actually following a lot of rules, and they were making it smaller than the original building and hidden away a little, so
Oh,
we're
they did a
like,
great job. It's a
I
beautiful
mean, yeah, I
building.
mean, it's a good,
Definitely an
as far as
asset.
an addition, yeah, they didn't just put a square block building here.
Which one are you referring to?
Hmm?
Which one are you?
This
referring to?
building.
This
place you
Yeah.
said,
This addition to the.
Yeah, to the
Yeah.
mall. I mean, I'm still against it, but like.
And
You look at soil samples and everything, and the oil here, it's like that, but covered with.
But it's not our job to look at all this, but really, the fire department, the offices down there, all that can be expanded down there, right where it actually is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of land there, some of it's wet, but it doesn't have to all come up here. That doesn't have to happen.
no, well, and it's, again, I think it just creates a safety concern where one does not exist now.
So what your earliest remembrance is, what does this site look like?
This site here,
Yeah.
there was just a block building.
Yeah,
Before that,
it
There wasn't even a
didn't
salt
have
shed.
the garage behind it.
Yeah.
facing this way, it just had the block building here, and then it had a sand shed.
There was a kind
There
of
was a shed where they had the,
chance shed.
where the trucks could back in to get the sanders into the truck.
Salt shed.
It was a salt shed, I
Yeah.
guess, but it had the actual mechanism for salting hanging,
Yeah, they
On
have that
chains,
jaffrey. and
where they
jaffrey
back the
outlet.
truck in and lower it in and attach it.
Yep,
And so that was there, the sand pile was about the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the carriage sheds, of course.
Before
this.
that though, wasn't there a house, like a guy's house with right away? Cause that's the land,
Unless that's the one that's behind it, is that
this little
Same house.
parcel right here with some guys.
really way back? All right, that
Yeah,
must have been in
before
the
our time.
thirties
Sold
or
it to the
twenties or
town.
thirties.
Yeah.
oh, really, sold it to the town, no kidding.
I wonder if it was Hadley, not Hadley, Haywards. I wonder if it was the Haywards that owned the whole apple orchard back there.
So
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
the two bay heated garage is fairly new. That's only about 20 years old.
Really.
That's been relatively speaking, that's pretty new. It's fairly new. You know, so if they even thought they were gonna move highway right, why would you spend all that money and do that? And
So essentially, you know, going back to the fifties, it would be highway garage.
yeah,
40s?
yeah, my grandfather was a road agent in 1960, I think it was around 1960, when they appropriated the money to build the block building
So they
for
had-
$2,500, which, you know, that's a lot of money back then.
yeah,
But and that was a big deal because the guys were working out of their own garages or under tarps, you know, with the snow and the
This was
cold.
just materials,
Trying
yeah.
to do mechanic work and change tires, and it was, you know, I'm sure it wasn't pleasant. So that was a big deal. That was a big improvement, 1960, to have a two-bay heated garage.
so for our purposes, what's next for our committee?
You know, let's just go, I mean, I'll even go further. So my grandfather, you know, and all those guys that were involved, all those families back then, those were all World War II veterans, born and raised Temple boys and girls. And shame on them for not having the foresight to put an ugly, stupid garage right here in our historic building. Shame on them, right? I just had to say that, because we're getting that, you know, look, I mean, it's a wart, that's a wart on the center of this historic village. Well, you know what?
That nobody-
My grandfather was a pretty smart guy, and he served for 4.5 years in the South Pacific, and a bunch of other guys did, that were involved with the process to put that wart there.
Because
You know,
it
and I
makes
think,
the most
I think
sense
we'll
for
live
it
with
to
that.
be
But
there.
as a historic district, highway garages go back as far as cars do. That's a lot of history.
Yeah,
That's my
They
thing.
always gonna say it.
Historic district.
I think. Well,
So you.
Before that,
Caves on hunting with rocks.
I talked to a few of the,
roughly speaking around then, this is where.
I think in the 50s it was being used, I think
This site right
it
here.
was just rundown old little sheds that they used, I think, to store whatever.
So this has got a history of going back at least 50 to 60, 70 years of being a highway garage location.
Yeah, oh,
Okay.
yeah, and like I said, there's people like my uncle or Pete Caswell. You know, or, well, Timmy, he's, they're same age, all those guys know, they remember as kids, they, you know, when it became the area for highway garage, but it's certainly been probably all of 60,
60, 70 years.
70 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's always been a sand pile.
yeah, as
What
far
years was it a sand pile? You
there's
know,
always been sand there, I just don't know if it was always in a pile in the middle of the lot. You know, I don't know, we'd have to ask some of these
Probably
older.
didn't, probably
these
didn't
older
have as many
people
roads
that-
back then either, though, right?
Yeah, well,
Didn't need as much sand.
yeah, they were all dirt roads.
Yeah.
They were all dirt roads.
So what's our next step?
You get a civilian to draw, get a petition about, an account, a certain account.
Yeah.
And then our group should maybe, I guess. I don't wanna say, I don't know, maybe at our, before, January, maybe we should, I guess, vote on which one we're gonna push, but I'm almost thinking. It almost seems like we should recommend one of the options to present, but I have a feeling this year hardly anything's gonna fly. I mean,
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
just general
because,
biz, I mean,
yeah.
did you see the paper last week? Conval wants $44 million,
The new CTE center.
Yeah.
for-
And the Lucy Bellin Theater.
We've got a solution to that. talk to you guys later.
I just have a feeling that this year everyone's gonna be like, whoa, how about maintenance?
Well,
That's just my-
tax bills, we'll know in a month when tax bills come, and then
Is-
the whole school issue in general.
But we-
Is there is there an opportunity or is there an option to, because I mean, when I've been to town meetings before, if something didn't pass,
They can amend.
you can
in
amend,
writing,
right?
People.
So can we put forth, let's say we do, a warrant article asking the town to vote for option 4, failing which, can there be another option? Can we do that?
But it would still, they could still have the option to deny both of them too, though.
That's
It
true.
wouldn't be like, oh, if I vote no on that, we're
Yeah,
starting.
but at least you get 2 bites at the end.
But that was my
Yeah,
thought, is
that's-
could
I
we
like
do
that
2
idea.
lesser,
like
one,
that idea.
one for the whole, the whole thing, and then another one for,
Or maybe
I guess.
2, like exclusive, like if you vote for one, the other one failed.
failed, right, something like that.
Mutually exclusive.
Isn't there an
articles.
issue if you've got money tied to that warrant article? Are there some limitations? I'm not sure.
Oh, as far as having a recount or whatever.
Well,
else.
no, I mean, if you've got, the reconsideration, but I think there's some limitations. Or maybe not, maybe you can change it to meeting.
Well, if you
Just
pick
for two
those
separate articles?
Well, that's what I'm asking, is can you do 2 separate articles, one for the whole thing and then one?
Yeah.
And if the whole thing passes, then we could make a motion to,
So do we feel strongly enough as a committee that the right thing to do is to move forward and present like option 4 to the town and give them a chance to vote on it at town meeting? Do we feel strongly enough that the alternative? Yep.
is this the AARP meeting?
It's probably in the main hall.
No, it's, I thought, no, it's in the library.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just across the road there.
Do we feel strongly enough about our position for the town moving forward in the next 50, 70 years, doing this? That, knowing that there are people that want to have a committee to study the other, the fire, the library, the town offices, and all those things as a big picture. Would we be doing? Do we feel strongly enough that those things that they want to do shouldn't happen up here?
I don't think that even counts,
No.
because we say, like, what I would like to see is option 4 first. And as the fallback, option 1, do nothing, but it works.
Mhm.
If a committee came up and said, you know what, here's a better idea. It doesn't negate option 1 working for now. It's not like we're saying, oh, it has to stay here for 50 years. We're saying, right now, we just want.
Or maybe a variation of that.
Like a main-
Option 4,
Yeah, increasing maintenance.
or let's call it $35,000 to fix what we got
Yeah,
and bring it up to snuff.
because I know personally myself, how I feel, and I've already stated it numerous times about what we could do to fix all these other issues that they say we have, without. Yeah, and with keeping that with our kid, we could fix all of them.
Yeah,
And it will break in the bank for sure.
Yeah.
But that's just me, and I'm just really confident about that, I know that, and I think that's the right thing to tell them, but I'm only one of 1,499 other people.
Yeah.
So it's not fair for me to think,
I feel strongly that option 4 is the right thing to do.
I do too.
I think,
I do too.
in talking with Kent after the forum, he said he had very intentionally not taken much time to look at what we were doing because he wanted to come and see what we were presenting. And he loved option 4. He was all about that.
He just doesn't want to
He
see.
just doesn't want the sand.
Right,
pile
but he was,
moving.
he was very
he doesn't
excited,
want to
he was
shed
very
the sand.
excited about that. And here, I mean,
I don't believe it.
it's still under $500,000,
Small work.
I mean, that's a lot of money, but, if we do have if those funds do become available, and if we can get grants, we might be able to get out of it for a
Can
couple
we-
hundred thousand.
Can we write the warrant article that says take the $250,000, put
No,
it in a trust fund to be used to improve this if you can get matching funds? That basically
And if we
guarantees,
just ask for money, like, we don't say where it came from.
Came from,
right?
yeah,
Just
I
like
agree with
for the
Dan.
town to raise and appropriate this one.
Yeah.
But earlier in the meeting could be the
There's
position
a
that
warrant.
says.
right, but I picked that number somewhat arbitrarily. But if that money was to be diverted to the highway department, there's still I think, you know, our numbers are now closing in on year and a half or so old type of thing.
They haven't changed that much,
You don't think things have,
not that much.
okay,
Subcontractors and material in general. Not really.
Supply.
Some things went down, some things went down.
Supply should be better.
Yeah.
so 450 is not an unreasonable number, but it's still, you've only got half the money in the bank. You've gotta get
Yeah.
grants, or it's coming out of people's pockets.
Yeah, then-
That would be a much more palatable position for people, you
How
know.
much money does the town have for these bridges? All the bridges.
They spent most of it on the first, the Powers Bridge.
No,
They added an
no,
account.
we've got $250,000.
Okay, so half of it.
They like to have
Not a
this
penny's
too.
been spent yet. But it's,
What are those bridges gonna cost?
20,000. Well, the Powers Bridge is gonna cost about 200, less than 200,000. We already got a quote for that, that's fixed.
100,000 less than they thought, thanks to Kent, right? Thanks to Kent Perry.
$800,000 less, because the state's at $1 million.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And it's only the conduit on the East Road. It's not.
Oh, it's not
the
a-
whole bridge.
It's not a
concrete,
complete, it's a conduit issue, and I'm not sure the details about that, but that's. As all the CIP meetings, and I'm on the BAC, so I'm at all the CIP meetings, that's 5 to 10 years, it doesn't have to be done right away, there's no rush on that whatsoever.
But Powers Road does.
Powers is, and the money's
Because
there
it's
to
closed, yeah.
take care of it right now, and as a matter of fact, I'm gonna make a presentation to the BOS tomorrow about this.
Yeah, Russ, you're on that committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the planning board, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I want to, do you guys think it might be a good idea that we present another report to the town? At the town meeting? With the.
How does one have to read? I don't have that with me, but I,
You weren't required to do it.
We're not required, because we
But I think it would be
did it this
I
last
agree.
town meeting.
It would be.
Right.
I didn't know, you know, in the beginning where you could do these things.
yeah, well, I did get the selectmen to reinstall the article in the beginning of the meeting, that hear reports of agents, auditors and committees and thereof, which we had in there for
Right,
years, and for
right,
some reason
right,
got taken out.
right.
It's the opportunity for somebody on a committee to stand up and speak, because otherwise you can't, it has to be specific to the article. So as long as the selectmen agree to keep that in the book every year, then that's our time to stand up and speak, because we're a
was
committee.
thinking, I mean, I've just learned stuff here about the history of the garage and how long it's been there, and how having it here, it limits if we change it, the traffic situation would get worse. Well, I mean, if we really write it out and think about it and have a really straightforward, simple, direct presentation, might be a good way to preface a warrant article.
Yep.
If we were to do a warrant article, because we know a lot of work. I mean, there's a few forums and that
Well,
can be discussed.
it's so similar to what we did at the special town meeting, where we changed people's minds at that meeting.
Yeah.
There were people who went in with one thought and changed their minds based on the information that we brought forward.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, a lot of people think that it was, fire and pitchforks and, everybody went in there, to take over and shut it all down. A lot of the people walked in that door, wanted to be convinced, and we had to tell them why.
Yeah.
You are correct. It wasn't all just naysayers. There was people on the fence, true.
Well, it used to-
Well, I mean, I
you
had
stood
a
up,
lot
you
of
both
people
made
come to
great
me afterwards and
presentations.
say that they were, that they changed their minds during the meeting.
Right, so to your point,
Well, I'm just saying,
Under
that
the
that could be
reports.
something we could really focus on right
Yeah.
now, whether we do it or not, but just to articulate,
Mhm.
not to go on for 30 minutes, but just a 2-page.
you're only allowed five. so-
Page summary of what's that.
You're only allowed five anyway, so yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And just as at least we've got that to do. And we only spent, oh, by the way, your check should be cut tomorrow. So, I mean, Wednesday, reimbursement. So if the warrant fails, and then at least we've got a mechanism of where we presented all the information that we've got from his survey to I mean, really, we've done a tremendous amount of work and understanding.
Yeah, I don't know what more we can do. We can engage with the public on a personal level, all of us, continue to do that, but we've had 2 forums. And we've, I don't know what more we can do.
No, I think and that's what we had said in the big picture plan, is after this forum, after the October 10th forum, lay out a plan
So that's.
Right,
Yeah,
what lay out a
We
recommendation.
should
basically.
write a warrant article saying
That's
option
sufficient
four,
people
and
with
maybe
small-
a separate one,
Small
option one.
statistics. to,
And I'm sure the moderator
some
would
valid conclusions.
combine like the discussion of both of them and be like,
Cost
they'd be
participation.
mutually exclusive, so. I bet we could do that, present 2 warrant articles that would be mutually exclusive and they'd let us vote on both of them, or one of them, and then depending on that result.
Yeah,
I definitely like the idea of getting maintenance appropriation for that building.
Should have been
Is
done
that,
years
is that
ago.
something, yeah?
Should have been done
I
years
mean,
ago.
that's something like, you're on the budget committee, right? Isn't that, I mean,
Yeah.
the maintenance budget for that building is $2,000. right?
Well, the highway.
And they, but they haven't seen it either, right?
Okay.
They
We
don't
can,
even
we can.
take it, I don't think. every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I mean, I priced the vinyl windows to replace the old wood windows from the 60s. 6 of them, 4 of them for $300 a piece.
Yeah.
I already gave a price on that 2 years ago. The roof, it's 10 square shingles, $3,000-4,000 the roof. So if you want to keep that block building for another decade,
Right.
we can put vinyl windows in it and a new roof. And, they keep burning wood
Yeah.
and the building would exist and we'll put some caulking in the cracks and paint it. We get a roller up and paint it, the painter for $2,000. I mean, literally, I don't say it's in disrepair, but it's really not in disrepair.
Right.
You literally could put lipstick on a pig and it would be there for
It's
20 years.
You gotta do some drainage.
Yeah, that is a problem.
The drain.
Yeah, I mean,
you just have-
There's no, the drains
It's
are.
not fun.
So when does the warrant
You can't
article?
drain into the floor. You can't drain into the
Yeah,
ground.
the river runs through it.
I don't think that if we did a warrant article, I don't think that we have to have a hearing, but I'm not positive on that. If we do have to have a hearing, if we did a warrant article and we,
Would have to be discussed at
Because-
the VAC town meeting 10 days, I think it's 20 days before the annual meeting.
yeah,
The VAC have to present, the town, the BOS and the VAC have to present all the warrant articles.
yeah, it's in January at some point,
February.
yeah.
First week in
Yeah,
February.
that's really pushing it. But I don't know about the hearing part. Certain warrant articles, you have to have a hearing.
I never heard about.
Yeah, well, so I'll give you an example. The warrant articles for years that my uncle did for Senate Bill SB2. They had to have a hearing at the town hall. Nobody ever showed up, but every time they did that, they had to have a hearing. That was their petition warrant article for SB2. They had to have a hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
so we do a petition warrant article. I think unless the selectmen are going to jump on board and give us their blessing, their recommendation, then the warrant article might be a petition warrant article from us. Which is odd, because we're a committee, and they didn't do that to the land use committee. They didn't make them do a petition. They actually, but, we have to get at least 2 of the selectmen to give us their blessing.
Ross, a question on the this historic district. Does it make sense to contact the state historic preservation folks and see if this might be something they'd be interested in?
Well, like providing grants.
Grants or, because it's all.
I know, I just written that, I was thinking, we're talking about giving grants for any of that stuff. If it's in the historic district, maybe there would be grant money to make the appearance historic.
Historic, yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, because I'm talking to them because of the church. We're thinking about putting the church in the historic register. I'm talking to them, I have a dialogue with them, but I was just thinking maybe we can just mention,
Yeah.
we're thinking about rehabilitating this, but we'd like it to be historically
In keeping
in
with,
keeping with the,
Yeah.
so.
there's
So-
certainly some options.
What do you think, Mr. Chairman, we should do for moving forward? We still have time.
You
So we
guys have way more experience than I do, but I'm thinking if we do warrant articles, put them in front of the select board and see if they support them,
Okay, that could be the next step.
right? And if they
Yeah.
shoot them down, okay, fine, then we go get our.
Then it's gonna have to be a petition if we want to move forward. Okay, I like that approach. Yeah, so that should be the next step then.
So at our next meeting, maybe have a rough draft of what the warrant article will be for option
Because
one.
we're end of October, we still have a couple meetings in November, a couple meetings in December. In January, it starts to get to the point where you really need to be presenting something, and because might have to have a hearing.
So let's.
But the deadline is like in the beginning of February or something.
Right, so for our next meeting, let's all come forward with
two warrant articles,
Yeah.
the
A draft.
option 4 and,
For repair.
I think the double band.
Any
drives
any
that
idea
way.
about?
can we, if we don't discuss them, can we send them out? Hey, here's my thoughts, hey, here's my, and so we all have a chance
Great
to
idea.
read them, and we're not sitting here reading warrant articles.
Yep, sure, great idea.
You can send documents. Bruce, does what was I gonna say? The warrant articles,
And you, just so I can have so we're thinking of presenting to the selectmen in January?
No.
See if they're-
Probably November, probably, gonna,
So, okay,
yeah,
Yeah, late November,
Yeah.
they're every 2
oh,
weeks.
here it is. Are you thinking about having a warrant article to put money in a trust? Or are you thinking about having current expenditures like raise an appropriate, I'm just talking out loud hypothetically here, raise an appropriate $400,000, $100,000 that should be expended this year for blah, 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 blah. And
I haven't thought it through that far.
and 300,000 be put into a capital reserve fund for future application.
Yeah, maybe something like that might work, I just haven't thought that through.
Okay, I just,
All right, well- I'm good.
Okay, so next meeting is warrant article discussion. I think the play started, we're getting ready to start.
can I just ask one question? Any thoughts on the report in the preliminary part of the annual meeting? Does that seem something that's viable or is that?
So-
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely.
I think that's
So that-
great.
Oh, that's definitely,
We
real.
probably
Yeah,
put
so-
that on the agenda for you to think about.
Okay, a report from March town meeting, yeah, that should stay on our agenda.
Yeah.
Just basically a rehash of our.
I haven't.
Oh.
Yeah, what we've done.
Yeah.
And why we did it.
I make a motion to adjourn.
So November 4th,
Hey, we got everyone here.
So, yeah, you can, and
except for Jim.
Who?
Jim.